The Burros of Berea is a conversational podcast. We study the Bible and we talk about it. Not all of us are of the same faith, and one of us doesn't actually have a faith.
And that's wonderful. We all love one another, and we're going to continue to talk about these things.
The things we believe in and the things we believe about what we read in the Bible. Not all of these are necessarily true. Some of it is opinion and speculation. Thank you for
listening and speculating with us.
There you go. That was good. Yes.
You are listening to the Burros of Berea.
Welcome back to the Burros of Berea. I am Rick Welch, and to my left, I'm so glad he's back. Billy Eye Candy Kimsey.
Like a cinnamon hot tamale, but the gringo kind.
What in the world
is that?
I don't.
Ole.
I appreciate that Billy really must have thought about that.
I've been out for, I missed the last one, so that's been a month. So,
so it's been a while since I've heard you. To my right, Chair of the Annihilator Lewis.
Hello.
Behind the glass is Rocket Man, Indy Bishop. Hey.
I don't know.
And like I said in the last episode, Sarita Edgerton was kind enough to join us for this Esther series. So hello, Sarita.
Hey, y'all.
So glad to have you back. Ralph Hicks is not here. His two girls are in a play, and so he's not able to be here to record tonight. And so it's going to be a while before we get back to Ralph. Probably about a month, 6 weeks, I guess. So anyway, but today is a special episode. It's another one of our testimony episodes. And we have with us the Burros of Berea's #1 fan out of Fayetteville. And the way that we met is awesome. So I just want to say hello to Mary McLeod. Hello, Mary.
Hi.
Hello.
Mary, I'm looking at her. We're doing a Zoom call because she's a caregiver for 2 children, and she is in Fayetteville, and so she wasn't able to make it up here. So we're watching her on Zoom. And so I'm so glad to have you here. I'm looking forward to hearing your story. I'm going to tell everybody how we met, which is really cool. She was one of the people that sent us that funny message on Facebook that said we had shattered all of her hopes and dreams. This is during the Olivet Discourse.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah. What was the name of the song, Mary, that you said you loved so much?
It's Jesus is Coming Back by Jordan Felice.
Yeah.
Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back. Put your hand. And then it's like, well, Jesus might be coming back whether or not he came back in 70 AD. It doesn't seem to go with the song that well.
Yeah. I'm really curious. How did you find out about us, Mary?
I honestly, you guys just popped up in my screen. I was in a period of my life where I was just, and it wasn't that long ago, I just couldn't get enough Bible study. And I was doing something with my hands that day, and I was wanting to listen to podcasts about people who listen to the Bible and Bible study. And I searched for Bible study, I think, or something to that nature. And you guys popped up in my iPhone podcast feed, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
So she saw a big picture of a bunch of jackasses, and she's like, let's try these guys.
This looks perfect.
Well, I listened to it, and y'all being from North Carolina, and me being from North Carolina, mostly from North Carolina, the accent sounded familiar, and it felt kind of homey. So I stuck with it, and here we are.
Yeah, but it's one of the things that that's what I loved about Sarita when she came on, because she's Southern. She's a Southern belle. And so she was talking that language. And like when Janice was here and Rodney was, they got that Southern feel. I really like it. We're going to be talking to Marcus Hall next week, or 2 weeks from now. And he's from Illinois. So it's going to be completely different with him, So I'm going to actually send him a pound of cornbread to eat while he's talking to us. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. So.
I'll eat it.
Can you get him to bring us cheese curds?
Yeah.
Some pencil beans in here with some mayonnaise, too.
Exactly. Well, let's get into this, okay? So, Mary, I ask every guest that comes on our testimony series to try to do their best to tell me their earliest memory of when they heard of Jesus Christ. Can you tell me when that was?
Oh, man, this one goes kind of with another song. I know y'all have heard that Ann Wilson song they play every day about Sunday sermons, third row pew.
Yeah.
That was very literal for me. very literal. We moved to North Carolina from New York State when I was about 7 or 8 years old. My mom and my little brother and I started attending a Methodist church near my house. My grandparents moved down eventually, and my grandma started coming too. And I loved going to church and Sunday school. I remember very early on, one of my Sunday school teachers, we memorized Psalm 100 right in the middle of the Bible, she told me, and I loved it. But my mom started going to local racetracks on Saturday nights. And then as we got a little older, my dad had a horse and he bought me one. I started doing horse stuff on Sundays. And eventually I just got farther and farther away from church. Of course, I got a car when I was 16 and I was off to college before you knew it. UNC Charlotte. Woo, go 49ers.
Right.
My father had been sick with heart disease. That's why we had actually moved here from New York State. And he passed away during my sophomore year at school. And, UNC was a fairly liberal college at that time. And not only that, but I was a sociology major. So I learned that people who were Christians really just were not that smart. I learned that kind of God,
not much.
It's true. I mean, that's what they teach you.
I've had a sociology class. I don't remember that section.
It is accurate. No, I'm just kidding. We're incredibly smart. What are you talking about, lady? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and that God and religion were just made up, and all that stuff they teach you. But anyway, I had fallen into the party crowd big time because that was where I felt accepted. I had always been the fat, nerdy kid. Smart but fat and not really in the inner circle of anywhere, but I was accepted in the party crowd. I found out, just like my dad, I was really good at binge drinking. I met my husband my senior year. He was also a binge drinker, but he would experience a lot of blackouts, more like my alcoholic stepfather. So you can see there's some patterns here. Drinking and drugging made me feel accepted, maybe even a little edgy. But I wish I had found Jesus back then because things could have been really different in my life. Anyway, fast forward to 1993. That's when I had my daughter. She was an only child. My husband and I had a very tumultuous marriage still. She was about 2, we even separated for about a year. That's when he gave up most of his drinking, unless I enabled him. We would occasionally go out, pull drunks like we used to. We always end up fighting, the house getting tore up, and me usually getting hurt. I was just broken at this time. I remember praying to God a lot of times to just take me out of this situation, but it was the wrong kind of prayers at this time.
And you already had your daughter at this point, right?
Yeah, I had her at this point.
And so you were dealing with all this and trying to raise a child too.
Yeah, so it wasn't too good. But she was around 4. She was around 4 or 5 years old. We had some new neighbors moving across the street. And we started being friends with them, started going to church with them, actually. It was a Church of Christ. And my husband even started going. But we were both baptized. And then the church strongly recommended we get married because we had been living together in sin up until that time with my daughter. So we got married. I learned a lot at that church. I mean, the teachings at the Church of Christ were very thorough and straight biblical. I learned a lot. One of my character traits when I was younger is I would let people and the imperfections that they have discourage me from situations. Like it was hard for me to forgive people's humanity. For example, at this Church of Christ, I was in a Bible study. We were praying out of this Bible study, and I hear the preacher's wife and one of the elders' wives talking about me in the room next door in the main sanctuary. And it was echoing, so it could be heard where I was at. And, at this stage of my life, I just would have found a way to approach them and talk about it. But at that time, I was like, that church ain't right. I'm out. I was out. And that's just sort of an immaturity thing that I had.
I think a lot
also
of us
had some harsh feelings.
Yeah, a lot of us would have that, a lot of us. I mean, whenever I was that young and I had a young family and I went to a church, I had a similar situation like that where I was sitting in a church and my daughter Kate was just a baby and she was just laughing and cooing and having a good time, and everybody that was around us was laughing and looking at her and just thought it was really sweet, this sweet little baby laugh. And the pastor of the church, like clicked his fingers, and one of the ushers or deacons came up to us and said, "We need you guys to come out in the back," and we're like, "What? What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Yeah, we just need you to come out in the back." So we got up and went out to the back, and they were like, "Yeah, your baby was really distracting the service, and the pastor didn't feel like he was going to get the message across, so you need to step out." And my wife was like, my baby was like smiling and laughing, And so later I met with that pastor, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. And if you don't like it, you can leave." And I was like, "Wow, that's crazy talk,
Well, you don't steal that man's spotlight, apparently.
Evidently, what he had to say mattered more than me and my wife. And, that's how you feel. And of course, I was like you. I had this immaturity level. We could have had a good conversation. I actually could have said, "All right, fine. This is his weakness, and I understand that. Maybe my daughter should go to the little daycare if we can, just to try to keep it cool." But, I just went to a Baptist church where all the kids were yelling and screaming and everything was fine. And the pastor just went right on through it. So I know how you feel. I've been there.
Or nowadays, you get a roundhouse.
Yeah.
Now he's just punched in the mouth.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted you to know you're not alone there.
No, I understand that. I appreciate that. But anyway, we managed to raise my daughter. My husband's two older kids were in and out. I've worked a lot of different jobs, but let's fast forward to my daughter in high school. She's been dating the same guy for most of her young adulthood. It's after high school now. They have a house in our neighborhood. They've had their first child. I knew they were kind of living a party lifestyle, but I didn't really know the extent of it. And to be honest, I was kind of living my own, not even kind of, I was living my own sinful life at this time. I had a couple boyfriends outside my marriage that I was seeking attention from. I was taking a lot of pain pills that they were prescribed to me, but I wasn't necessarily taking them correctly. And I ignored a whole lot of red flags from my daughter that I should have seen. A whole lot of red flags. But I had a plan to leave my husband. I was actually going to get my own apartment. The very day I was supposed to sign my lease on my own apartment, it was honestly like the hand of God reached down and just smacked me on my forehead. My daughter, Marissa is her name, and Zach had been at my house using my computer. They had left her Facebook page open, and I just happened to glance at it, and I noticed that she's asking these questions. I read all these messages, and I find out that she's really trying to get drugs, and that she's really kind of strung out on drugs, and she's owing some people some money. And anyway, I go over to Zach's parents' house where they were staying, and it comes to light that my daughter and her baby daddy Zach were addicted to IV cocaine and heroin. And actually, so were Zach's parents at that time where they were living.
Wow.
So I took in the kids, I took the boyfriend in, and she went to her first stint in rehab. Not long after, I had to kick the boyfriend out because he was shooting up in my house. So here I was with these two little kids. I heard in a podcast once that when you have a child that's sick with cancer or another serious disease, your friends reach out and they send you cards. They might make you a casserole. They do all kinds of things for you. When your child's a drug addict, they don't do that. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that addiction is a serious disease, it kills so many people, kills so many of our children.
Yeah,
they totally should do that. We should be better.
Yeah. But it's a stigma. It's stigmatized, and people are afraid. And honestly, most of the parents of drug addicts are not fun people to be around at this point in time. Her first stint in rehab was not successful. She came back home. She was in and out of the house with this guy and that guy. She eventually just started disappearing. Well, she was supposed to be in a program here in Fayetteville. She was supposed to be going during the day, and then she'd come home and was supposed to be working at night. And it turned into the day thing. She was just hanging out doing drugs with people, and at night was the same thing. So she started disappearing for days at a time. So I really got scared that one of the kids was going to get hurt, like they'd fall or they'd get sick, or, I'd have to take them to the emergency room, and I didn't have any paperwork to even do that. So it was at this point, I just really had to get social services involved. And when you get social services involved, you can't keep the addict in your house and still keep the children in your house.
Right.
So, of course, I had to put my daughter out. And that was really hard to have to kick my daughter out of my house. But it was the best thing for everybody. During this time, I'd been attending Nar-Anon, but I really just go and cry. I wasn't getting a whole lot out of it. I wasn't really surrendering to him, which is step one. You got to surrender the problem to God. And I just had the hardest time surrendering anything. I'd sit up late at night and I would just be in a terrible depression. I'd cry and binge eat. Now, I wasn't drinking anymore. I was binge eating. It's said that the families of addicts are really as sick as the addict or sicker. And I'm a fine example of that, boy. I felt like I was surrendering, but I was still trying to control my daughter. My constant attempts to manage my own feelings by trying to control what she was doing didn't help anyone. It didn't help anyone. My mom at that time started going to meetings with me, and at her request, we started praying for my daughter every day. Regular prayer was not a normal thing for me. I'd gotten so far away from everything again, but with my mom, we started praying for my daughter every day. And there is so much to be said for the power of prayer. But one day I'd gotten out of the house. I was just driving around trying to de-stress a little bit. I was listening to some contemporary Christian music. There was a particular song that came on, and it just touched me so much. I had to pull over. And it was just so emotional. But when I pulled over, I felt the presence of Jesus with me so strongly, just comforting me and telling me that everything was going to be okay. And I would say it was one of maybe the first or second time in my life that I really felt Jesus with me. And I needed him with me at that time. Putting my own sick child out with nowhere to go was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. But that's what really started healing for both of us. Although she had overdosed many times before, I couldn't police that anymore. She was homeless on the streets. She was doing what addicts do. Eventually, my mom decided to take her in. She felt sorry for her. After a debacle where she stole a bunch of money from my mom, she finally decided to go to rehab. I had added her to my insurance program, my insurance for that year, hoping that she would decide to get into a program. Toward the end of the year, she found a program in Florida, and she went off to Florida. I was still praying a lot, informally working the steps in my Nar-Anon program. But looking back, I really didn't understand the true nature of God as much as I needed to. He was still working on me, though. My time with God, though, became less and less frequent. I had a 2 and a 4-year-old to take care of. I had my husband and my mom. Mom had been in a wheelchair. Her health had been declining. I guess it was about 5 years ago. She had spent more time in the hospital that year than she had spent at home. I was doing my best to take care of her in her house because she was not willing to give up her house. And her dogs and my house and my dogs and my husband and the kids. And I was just really depressed at some point. And a lot of times I was just going through the motions because things were just tough. My daughter was in Michigan at this point with her husband-to-be and his family. Actually, she was married at this point. My mom came to a decision. We came to a decision together for her to go into hospice. People came to the hospital. My sister came, and my half-sister and my daughter came down to say their goodbyes while she was in the hospital. Eventually, I brought her dogs, her TV, and her oxygen machine, and I set her up in my front room. She was so tired. It wasn't long, maybe a day or two. She was refusing food and medicine. And I mean, it was just me taking care of her. Yeah, I had a hospice nurse who would come maybe an hour a day. But it was just me. And after a couple of days, she couldn't speak. She couldn't talk. She would just communicate with me in like grunts and really just grunts. And most of the time it was when I was turning her over to clean her up and move her around. But when Mom was asleep or in this other state that I'm not sure was sleep or not, it's hard for me. I don't know. But she could speak very clearly when she was asleep. I heard her talk to her parents. I heard her talk to her cousin Ruthie, who had died from polio in her childhood. I mean, I knew that our Father prepared a room for her, but now, after going through this and hearing my mother speak to these people, I really knew. So I had been taking care of my mom and the 3 dogs in the house. I also had a rabbit. One day I'd gotten up and checked on Mom. The kids had gotten up, and we discovered that overnight her 2 pit bulls had actually gotten through the 2 barriers and gotten in my rabbit's cage and killed my rabbit. So there was a lot of blood, and I cleaned that up, cleaned my rabbit up, fed the kids breakfast, and then went in with Mom. She was sleeping, and I was just so drained. And I was so sad. We were about 10 days into hospice at this time. I can't really explain to you how I felt, but I prayed out loud. I just held her hand. I said, God, if it's your choice, if it's time for Mom to go with you, then please just take her gently. I said, but if it's your will for her to stay here on earth, just give me the strength of character to continue on. And now this woman had 2 oxygen machines at this time, piggybacked on each other to keep her breathing. She had been basically non-responsive, grunting at me for days. She sat straight up in bed and looked at me and clearly told me, thank you, Mary. I love you. I said, Mom, I love you too. Wow. And she lay back down. And so I took the dogs and the kids outside, out in the backyard for a few minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, just for dog and kid business. And I came back in to check on her, and she was gone. She was gone.
And so she said that literally right before she passed away?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she's literally before she passed away. I felt super guilty because I wasn't with her at the moments that she crossed over. But then I kind of thought maybe she didn't want me to be. Mm-hmm. Maybe she was waiting for that minute. I felt guilty. Did I do the right thing by bringing her into hospice? I wasn't sure. But when the coroners came, they told me that they could tell when someone goes peacefully or when someone goes, in pain and violently. And they told me she had to have went peacefully because, there was no blood, no nothing. She just went to be with God. And so we had our celebration of life at the little Methodist church where this story started. Where she and my grandma were basically elders, like we talked about, Rick. Remember we talked about? Yeah. I liked the pastor. I hadn't met him before. He came to visit with my mom one time when she was sick, but I hadn't heard him preach. And he talked briefly for me, and I started going to church. And it was so comforting for me to sit in that same pew where I sat with Mom and Grandma growing up. It was just so comforting. I felt so lonely. I was missing my mom. It was just easy for me to immerse myself in church and Bible studies and music and podcasts and everything I could get my hands on. I started doing Bible studies with my pastor and on my own. About this time, I discovered the Bible Project with Tim Mackey.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I started taking even some of their seminary level courses on the website. And I really learned how to read the Bible, which no one had ever taught me before. No one had ever taught me how to read for context, how to read for literary types. I didn't understand ancient worldviews until I took some of his classes, and all of a sudden it was like, it opened up for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and I got it, I got it. Jesus hadn't only been working on my heart, but at that point it hit the intellectual side in my head, and I got it, man. I got it. I just felt like God has been with me, and the Holy Spirit has been working on me ever since then. I mean, my pastor, he's a wonderful man. He's a wonderful man. And if he hadn't have been around, I probably wouldn't be as close as I feel to God now either, because he taught me it's okay to hold some of the more liberal values that I hold, that God's grace covered me and everybody else. He helped me in my understanding of the Bible, and I really began to feel like I really understood some of the heart and nature of God. And he's leaving my church. I hate that he's leaving, but that's what we do in Methodist churches. We rotate pastors.
Right.
So you get But now during COVID, I got depressed like some other people, but I bounced back. Now I try to structure my days now. My time with God in the morning and my study time. I manage our church's Facebook page. I volunteer doing a lot of other stuff. We're a really small church, but that just means there's a lot more for us to do. And I enjoy, really, there's less of us. That just means there's more for all of us to do. So I really enjoy contributing my hands and my heart to our ministries. We recently just had a big church-wide yard sale. And we're pretty small, but we made over $2,000. So for us, that can go to our homeless ministries, and that was just great. But I surrendered my marriage. I surrendered my family's well-being. 2021 was really rough for me. I almost died of sepsis. That's a whole other story.
Wow.
We also experienced the loss of the kid's father to fentanyl overdose.
Oh, no.
Fortunately, my daughter has been clean for over 5 years.
Oh, wow.
She never relapsed,
awesome.
but
that's great. That's statistically,
praise God.
she's winning.
That's right. That's awesome.
Praise God. But I'm just blessed. I'm grateful, and my goal is just to glorify God, try to reflect God's love in what I do. I'm covered by His grace, and I've been through so much sometimes and I fall far from where I should be most days. But I try to make better choices, and I'm just fortunate to be covered by His grace. I heard Sarita's testimony and identified with her on a lot of things, because I think we're in the same kind of age demographic thing there. But I was so impressed by the big ministry that she has. And I was like, well, I don't have a big ministry. I don't have any kind of big ministry. I got a little Facebook page, but then I look at the two kids, and I've had them since they were little. My little boy, I say he's mine. I've had him since he was an infant, and they're my most important ministry right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the season of my life that I'm in. And I accept it, and I thank God for putting me in their lives.
Well, can I just say, this is Sarita, by the way, and can I just say that, first of all, I'm touched that you listened to my story, but ministry looks so different for everybody, and God gives us exactly the kind of ministry that He wants us to lead, and God doesn't have competitions on whose ministry is bigger. I know that Peter and Paul kind of got into it in the Bible a little bit of, kind of button heads, who's the big dog on campus, but that's not what it's about. I just go where God tells me to, and my 4 children, they're my biggest ministry. And so I totally agree with that on you. But I want to go back to your story about your mom, because my mom passed away in 2018 after being in hospice for a little bit of time, and very similar experience. Her passing wasn't peaceful. It was very violent and hard.
I'm sorry.
But one of the things the hospice nurse told me is, she said, give her permission to go. Mm-hmm. Tell her it's okay. Give her permission. And when you prayed that prayer, you gave Jesus, I don't know if you said the prayer out loud, but you gave Jesus to give her permission to go. You said, it's okay, I can get through this. And you gave her permission. And once she knew that you were going to be okay, she went. And I just think that prayer was it. And she sat up and gave you that little bit of love. And
that's amazing to me. She just popped right up and said it clearly. I mean, that's awesome.
She'll be giving you that same bit of love the next time you see her.
It's amazing. Amazing. I can't wait to see her again.
But listen to me. You don't compare yourself to anybody else. That women are so bad about that. Physically, emotionally, family-wise. My family's a mess. I'm a mess. My body's a mess. I've been a mess. I mean, if we do that, we get outside of what God calls us to do. And we focus on ourselves and not on Him. And I know guys compare themselves in different ways. So I've never been a guy, so I can't really talk on that. Maybe eye candy over here can, but
we all compare ourselves to him.
Well,
that's how that one
Only Rick does.
I'm just like,
Rick's the
I just
problem.
wish I could be eye candy. What can I say?
But you
Maybe
have
you
to
should
be
ask in this crowd about that.
but you have to be you and who God made you to be for your particular ministry. Because if you're trying to be someone else, you're not going to be as effective.
That's true. That's true. I know the Holy Spirit's given me gifts, and I just try to roll with what I got. Try to roll with what I got every day, you know. So these kids are super important to me, and losing their dad last year was really hard for them. And I can't imagine if they had been in foster care, how that would have been.
How old are they now?
So.
Man?
I was here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. Doing what I do for a reason. So,
how old are the kids now, Mary?
They are 7 and 9.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wow.
And they get all kinds of awards every award ceremony at school. They get character awards, behavior awards. And that's what counts to me.
Yep.
You know, the grades, we can work on that. But when you're getting character awards and behavior awards, and I know that they're being good when they're out of my sight, that's, and they're courteous of other people, that kind of stuff, that's important to me. And they are.
That's
they
because
are.
of you, Mary. That's because of you. So
they're awesome kids. They are awesome kids.
That was Andy playing his banjo in the corner. No, that's not. It was his phone.
Sorry.
Andy has a banjo? That's fantastic.
No, I don't own a banjo.
Yeah, but
this is a tragedy for another day. No, sorry. I thought it was on silent. Classic.
Mary, do you still go to those Naranon classes to this day?
I do not.
You do not?
I do not.
Do you have people that are like-minded that are maybe in a similar situation that you talk to?
Gosh, there are so many people who have been in this situation. Once you kind of network in, there are so many grandparents raising their kids, and it's all because of the opiate problem that we've had. It's all because of heroin and fentanyl.
You talk about the pain pills, right? That's a whole thing about how the ease of access to pain pills, and they were encouraging doctors. There was this new philosophy of no one ever has to experience pain ever. Why? But that philosophy was like kind of pushed from the top down by drug companies, and so they're in all kinds of lawsuits now because the proliferation of opiates to the masses was done seemingly on purpose and absolutely for a profit. And you notice you can't get them anymore. Swung completely the other direction. Your arm could be half hanging off, and they'll be like, "Here's an aspirin." But anyway, that led directly, because when those pills started drying up, the market filled with like actual heroin and et cetera.
Yeah, and fentanyl.
Yeah,
fentanyl.
And it's it's amazing.
Well, they
it's
said 107,000 people died last year in your kids' father's demographic.
Yeah.
Of fentanyl overdose, fentanyl and heroin overdose.
Mm-hmm.
107,000 young people gone.
That's staggering.
Crazy.
It's never happened before.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year was the year for the most overdoses so far since the. Yeah, I've read a lot of books about it, and I saw where the Guggenheim had removed the Sackler name from everything the other day. And,
did they?
I was like, hey,
Remove the what?
hey.
The
The
Guggenheim.
Sacklers.
Oh,
The Sacklers.
They own.
They're the,
What do they own?
Do they own Pfizer?
Not Pfizer. It's
whichever one that pushed out the
whatever.
oxycodones.
Mod-
well,
Yeah.
that is Pfizer then.
Moderna?
Because that's the
Is it Moderna or Pfizer?
Pfizer has the brand name Oxycodone.
Okay,
So
yeah,
it must
okay.
be them.
so the Guggenheim took the name off
Oxycontin,
because
yeah.
of what's going on with drugs, is
Well,
why?
because there's a really big there's an investigation right now and everybody's really inspecting, and I think it's even literally in a court of law somewhere, am I not right? Where they're trying to prove that the drug companies were pushing the drugs and the ethos around prescription in order to make sales, and it was like on purpose. It's like a created opium. You ever heard,
Yeah.
the opium war?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it just happened to you.
Right.
Yeah, they've been sued. They've been sued by several of the states, especially like West Virginia, where it was really, really bad. I think Florida eventually sued. Florida was interesting. It wasn't bad at one point. Then they started building rehabs there. Then the rehabs really started being a for-profit venture. There was a lot of money to be made in rehabs. Then people started opening like what they would call sober homes or halfway homes. And they were taking a whole bunch of people's insurance money.
Oh, that's a whole other thing. I know of this story. I wish I knew more about it, but that's a whole other thing where there was for a while, it was the beginning of Obamacare, and drug rehab was covered, well-intentioned enough. But what happened was all of a sudden, all these people that didn't have health care have health care. And so all these rehabs popped up to just as like for-profit, like drug rehabs that were leeching off like the government, and they started like massively abusing the system, as will happen. So all these drug rehabs were just charging and keeping people in as long as they could, not really wanting people out, and then moving them into halfway homes. Those halfway homes were run by them, whatever. Anything they could do to kind of keep you on the rolls, so they could be charging the government for drug rehab and just all these wild accounting scandals. It's massive.
Wow.
It was huge. But of course, we don't hear about it because it's not in our purview. But it's a whole thing. Like, she's not selling it hard enough.
Wow.
Yeah, and there were even like social media type people who were like, I recovered and I can get you into this rehab and da 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 da. Da. And at one point, they would get kickback. They'd get money for everyone they put into rehab. Like a sales commission kind of thing. So you put somebody into rehab and you don't know anybody else and you need some money that week, you let them get high again so that they can pee dirty again, and then you got to put them back into rehab. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it turned in, and then people were getting paid for doing that.
And there's
and
like
the whole thing in
kickbacks and all
Florida.
this other stuff.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was bad.
Wow.
And fortunately, my daughter she got into Florida into rehab under Obamacare, like you were talking about. It benefited her, and she got out of Florida before it got bad.
Yeah,
At the time, I was mad because she was in this super nice halfway house. I mean, it was gorgeous, and it was on the beach.
She hit probably
she was
right as they were like really soaking, which meant she got into nice places.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was getting acupuncture.
What?
She was getting
Yeah.
massages. Beach days, massages.
It was obviously
acupuncture.
it's a well-intentioned thing, right? It's a well-intentioned like drug rehab was covered under a sort of nationalized healthcare, sort of, not really, but sort of.
Yeah.
But where there's a will, there's a way, I suppose.
I mean, if you take a step back and you think about that, doing drugs really does pay.
It did. It
Right?
paid people that owned rehabs.
That's the message. That's the message.
I'm going
now.
on vacation.
No, but she just said she was jealous of her daughter because she's in this beautiful place. She's getting acupuncture.
That must have been right in the middle of it.
Massages. Yeah. I mean, doing drugs.
I wasn't jealous. I was just mad when she left.
Yeah, you were. No,
because she left to follow a man and was homeless until she got up to Michigan and was homeless up there living with his family or whatever. But I was just mad that she left this cushy setup that she had. But, you know, she was chasing a man, her future husband. So she, like I said, 5 years clean. She's married. She has
5 years is amazing. That's great.
Yeah. She has a 4-year-old, and she's actually pregnant with her 4th. So we are moving toward some joint custody things where the kids are going to spend some time over the summer with her.
Oh, wow.
And I get a break. And I get a break.
For those that are listening, Mary is recording from her car, and she's doing a dance in the driver's side right now. She's just, if you guys could only see.
Did you record that? Can we make a GIF?
I wish that I had recorded it, but no, I did not. Yeah. Mary, I have a question for you. So, normally I ask people towards the end of their testimony if there are other people that are going through similar things that you're going through, and they're in that isolated place. They're feeling lonely. Is there any advice that you could give to someone who is either in a similar situation that you are in, or whether it, especially when it comes to your grandchildren and dealing with that. And by the way, I'm so glad to hear that your daughter and you are working things out and that there's going to be this joint custody thing. I'm sure that, like you said, you're getting a break, but you need that break. I mean, you're a grandma. You want to be able to see them and spoil them, but not have to be the full caregiver. And I get it. And trust me, I do.
Right.
But is there any advice that you could give to anybody as far as, where do they go when they feel that loneliness, or they feel like they're at their wit's end?
Yeah, I would say Nar-Anon, Al-Anon, those are amazing programs. If you can get to one near you, just go. Just go. Don't build it up. Don't stress about it. Just say, I'm going to go to this meeting and go. There will be people there who have been where you are. They will receive you without judgment. You will feel no shame, no guilt, no stigma when you're with these people in this meeting, and start there. Mm-hmm. Church should also be the same way. Just go. You shouldn't feel any stigma, guilt, or shame when you're there either.
And if you think one thing that we learned, especially in Sarita's testimony, is that if you think that you're walking in and that these people are holier than thou and they're looking down at you, you'll probably find that they aren't. Just because they decided to dress cleanly that day. I'm a nasty dude, man, but I like to wear my best on Sunday, but not because I'm trying to impress anybody. It's just because I want to look my best. That's how I feel whenever I go. And, you can go to church and you can sit and you can worship, and you don't have to agree with everything. But in most cases, churches are telling you that God loves you. And that's something that everyone, I think, needs to hear, especially when they're alone. And physical touch. I don't know if you've ever been alone long enough to where, man, you get a hug and it's like, oh, I really needed that hug, and I didn't want it from my husband. I didn't want it from my wife that day. I was I had so much going on. It was so nice just to see a pal or someone and say,
stay away from me.
Come on.
I see you looking at me weird.
I just wanted to give you I wanted to give you a kiss on the cheek like a good Jew.
I was also thinking about hugging Billy. Can we do it together?
Can we get it on video?
Weird.
If you move, God's going to help you. I believe if you move, God's going to help you. Because when I went back to church, and just like not recently, within the last 6 to 8 months, I'd say, one of the ladies at church started just a women's Bible study. And really, it turned out just to be 3 of us studying the book of Esther from Beth Moore's book. But it really turned out to be the 3 of us. But God put us that way for a reason, because all 3 of us have adult daughters. Now, all of these adult daughters have different challenges, but we have, we still have a camaraderie because of, oh my gosh, we want to kill them sometimes, but they're also our best friends. We love them to death. So, we really have that camaraderie, the 3 of us, and we've really gotten close. Maybe even not, we really haven't learned that much about Esther so far, but we know a lot about each other. We know a lot about each other, and it's been great.
Yeah. We released our part 2 of our Esther series today. It just came out. we did our holiday program, and now the Esther part 2 came out today. So we're finally in. I said we were going to get into Esther, and that was like 2 months ago, but we're finally in it. They kicked me out of the Olivet Discourse, so they had enough.
It's over, Rick.
You need to just go through it verse by verse next time. Just break them down one verse at a time.
Anyway, Mary, it's been so great having you on here.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
That is an amazing
I
story.
really am such a big fan.
It's a strength.
It's so nice to hear. Mary McLeod, the #1 fan out of Fayetteville. So guess what? So you got 2 mugs, right?
Yes.
All right. I am sending you a journal, and I am sending you a new. I just got some new swag. I got a. Yeah.
Swag.
I got some swag. I'm going to send you some swag, okay, since you couldn't be here in the studio and get a kiss from Billy Eye Candy.
Billy's going to crawl out of here through a hole in the wall.
Rick, the big pimp, is pimping me out or something.
He is.
I expect some selfies, some photos.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Well,
So-
I want to turn something, Cherry, you need to know that Mary had said in a message. She said, Cherry's my girl. Evidently, she really likes what you have to say. So I'm going to turn the computer so you can see each other and say hi. And break her phone.
Well,
Oh my gosh, hi!
hello.
Hello, I love her. Hello.
I always thought that was a good
You know.
character thing because she always does this the same.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah, she
I
said.
felt a lot listening to, is it Rodney? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my husband.
Yeah. Listening
With
to
such love and adoration.
I know that tone, girl. I know it. I'm with you. With you.
Every wife knows that tone.
Yes, that's him.
Well,
But I was like, when I was listening to his testimony, I was like, wait, that's Cherry. Is that Cherry's husband? Yeah, I finally put it together. I was like, oh man, I know, girl, I know what you're talking about. So
yeah,
I understand a lot of the stuff you've been through too.
I don't know. I don't really know how much of my own personal life. I don't think I speak too much about it.
No, never.
I think probably Rodney coming in and giving his testimony probably was more of an open door into my personal life than I ever tell anybody.
Yeah.
I am currently raising 2 of my grandchildren, have been since the boy was 3 and the little girl was 5. And our son overdosed in our house. Yeah. But he thankfully survived. And he spent 10 months in prison, or jail, actually, and recently got out and trying to work on building a relationship now, hoping he stays sober and clean. The mother of the little boy, from what I understand, just recently was put in jail. So the only thing I had to say to that was I was thankful that she was put in jail and I didn't have to tell her son who she was because she passed on. So hoping and praying we don't go through that. But hearing you say what you said kind of,
You guys should exchange
Definitely rough.
numbers. You guys should exchange numbers, and you guys should talk to each other because you're both similar, and you can lift each other up, and all this.
Yeah, send each other an uplifting text every now and then. But,
definitely.
I mean, I've got a friend of mine right around the corner from here who's going through the same thing with her daughter. It's terrible, but it's not uncommon. Unfortunately, it's not
the
uncommon.
opiate thing has really reached
it's sad.
Everywhere.
It's sad because we're meant to be grandparents, and
Yes,
we find ourselves fulfilling the role of the parent, and it's so confusing, overwhelming sometimes. It's just
Absolutely
just crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess
Mother's Day.
Oh,
Mother's Day is confusing, isn't it?
I don't know about you two, but Mother's Days have been so bad for me in the past. So bad for me because not only was I missing my mother, here I am putting so much effort into these 2 little children, and they make all their stuff for their mother in school for their mother. They want everything for Mother's Day to be for their mother, And it's like, what have I been doing for the last 5 years? But they're children. They're children. I want them to love their mother. I want them to do things for their mother. And this year was like the first year that anything dawned on them, that, oh, wow, Oma does, I'm Oma.
Gotcha.
Because of my German heritage, that Oma does a lot of stuff for us too. So they brought a card home for Oma. So that was sweet.
Oh, that's nice.
That's actually what I wanted to be called. And my husband graciously let them call me Mama. But I had actually picked out, I didn't want to be Mama. I wanted to be Oma is what I wanted to be. Yeah. And he ruined it.
I worked with a woman who said, I refuse to be called Granny. I refuse to be called Grandma or Mama or Mimi or whatever. I want to be called Mama-san.
Mama-san.
So I said,
Mama-san.
That means Japanese whore. And she said, what? So I was just kidding. But now she's called Granny. So anyway, somehow I managed to get that word in every episode, don't I?
Every episode. Every one.
Sorry, everybody.
What the audience can't see is Rick's checklist of things he has to do once an episode.
Got it. So, Mary, do you have any jokes you could bring us?
Oh, gosh. No.
Well, I do need to ask you, Mary.
I'm more of a reactive person. I'm funny in reactions. I don't really initiate the funny. I'm like funny reactive.
See, that's what Cherry claims. That's what Cherry.
Speaking of funny, Mary, is that a leopard print pineapple on your shirt?
Yes, it's a pineapple.
Is it leopard print?
It is leopard print.
That is awesome. I've never seen one. That's awesome.
A leopard print pineapple.
A lot going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the jungle.
That's right.
Does some pineapple mean welcome?
I think it does. It also means pina colada.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so
well, I said I was going to be one of those. I said I was going to be one of those crazy old ladies with purple hair. I got a little bit of pink left in there. Crazy old grandmas with purple hair that wore crazy clothes all the time. So
yeah, it used to be a thing when we were.
I tried to tone it down.
We used to make fun of the elderly when they had like blue and purple hair, and then it became a thing for teenagers for a while. So now it's no big deal. It's all good. So I got a joke. Yeah. This is the only joke that I have for the day, and my precious wife gave it to me right as I got in the car, and I didn't even know it was coming. So. Whenever Noah called all the animals to the boat, why did the worms not want to go into the apples? Why did the worms, when they came to the boat, not want to go into the apples?
I don't have any idea.
Because they were supposed to come in pairs.
Oh.
Now, just so you know, all your little frowny noises, that was directly to my wife.
I like it.
Yeah. It was a good sort of bad.
Yeah. It was a good bad funny.
See, my husband thinks the more you groan and eye roll, the better the joke.
Yeah, the better the joke.
Yes.
That's what I say. Like if it ruined your day, it's great.
It's great.
So I'm going to turn this computer now, and Mary, I want you to know how much I appreciate you being here and being our number one fan. I'm so glad that you just happened to cross us. And
she didn't just happen across you.
It was a divine appointment. A divine appointment. That's right. And so I want us to stay in touch. Please tell people about us. I'll be sending you some swag. I'm gonna have to get your address again, but I promise I will crumble it up and eat it like I did last time. And then get you that stuff and stay in touch. And I want to try to build a community that of people that talk to one another. That's what this testimony thing is about. I want people to tell, what did the Lord do for you, but also to be able to outreach and to hear, look, I'm not perfect, but evidently neither is anyone else out there. We all need help. We don't need to be alone.
We've all been through some stuff, but
that's for sure. Well, everybody say bye to Mary. Thank you so much for being on the show, Mary.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, well,
bye.
Guys, thanks for joining in with us. We will talk to you next time on the Burros of Berea. So you might be looking at the side of my head some. I might be looking at you, and everybody else is just going to be kind of hearing you. I would like to upgrade and have like a screen and eventually, but that may not be a thing that Andy allows in here because he's a sound engineer.
You can buy all the televisions you want.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy one where we can actually have interactive sound.
The trick is you got to get a swing mount that like hangs from the ceiling and then like swings down like that.
Oh, totally do it. I'll do it.
So that, because there's no place else to put it in here.
Yeah, I want to do that so that because like we've got Marcus Hall coming, we got Dave Cristiano coming, we got some really cool people coming too.
Yeah,
and I'd like everybody to be able to see Mary right now.
The proper software solution. That gets more elaborate because I'm sure there's some internal software solution, but if you want the video in this room too, then it gets kind of complex.
Right.
Well, these are solved problems though, just not by us.
Right. So Mary, are you ready to go?
Ready.
You want to see eye candy?
Yeah.
Get over here, eye candy.
It's like bye.
It's like, why not?
Yeah. Let's get a close up here. Get up in
flex
here.
there, Billy.
Come on, Sarita.
Oh.
She saw Cherry. She saw Andy.
Yeah, I was early when I was running around.
Yeah, I forgot we had to say goodbye.
I saw Sarita's pic. And I was like, they took something and just blew up her face.
Yeah.
Hi.
All right. Take care, Mary. We'll be in touch. I'll be sending you that swag here sometime this week or early next week, okay?
I'm offended. I didn't get
Thanks, Rick.
All right. Thanks so much.
I've
Bye-bye.
decided
Bye.
that, I'm going to have to lay out.
Candy Kinsey nor swag.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to lay out just so Rick will miss me
Yeah.
Yeah.
and brag about how much he misses me.
I
Yeah.
know.
Maybe wants to hug me or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me a
and
Jewish
that's
kiss.
the first one I've missed. The very first one.
Very first one of what?
It is.
The podcast.
Oh, I've been here without you.
Well,
No,
we've
not
done,
the side studies.
Rick
the
and I have
original.
done one without. Rick and I have done one without you.
No, never. That was always side studies off weeks. He's never missed his week.
Oh, really?
Never.
Wow.
Never.
Until
it's all
last
about you.
time, and it just totally,
I was watching track.
Sarita was so disappointed.
Well, I haven't seen the other guy, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't exist.
Oh,
Ralph,
Ralph.
he's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah,
He'll-
he's real.
He's
He'll
real?
be here.
Oh, okay.
He's
Yeah.
some eye candy.
He's real.
Aged eye candy.
They told me to say he's real.
Okay. Is he old?
He's real. He's old. I'm not sure he's real old.
He's got that. I don't know.
think he's that. I don't think he's old.
He's in his 60s.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really thought that he was probably in his 50s. Really.
No.
I just, yeah. Wow.
He's a young,
He's a
vibrant
good, he's an
70-year-old.
eye candy then, yeah.
Okay, then.
He's getting older.
I don't know.
He's
I don't
bending
know about
time
eye
over
candy.
here.
You guys are pushing it.
Who?
You said he's a little old eye candy?
I didn't say he was a little old.
What did you say?
I said, yeah, then he's really eye candy.
Oh my gosh. He's Werther's original candy.
He's peppermint stick.
Oh.
Here, kid.
Come here, kid.
Are you talking about like
piece of
Mr.
gum?
Rogers'
Here,
neighborhood?
let me get my candy out of my cardigan.
Werther's?
Is he that bowl of candy your grandma used to leave on
He
the table
carries
until
them in
it
his
stuck
hand.
to one
Yeah.
big
Oh, yeah.
candy?
Yeah.
Actually,
Like 7 years old.
Werther's original
I'm
has
sure it was still good for you.
Werther's original has now.
You know what?
What?
This better not be in me.
It's going to be in the back of it. Absolutely.
I stopped the recording and then you
Thank
guys started
you,
to chuckle and I
because-
turned it back on.
That's what I'm talking about.
Son of a-
I love it's always a surprise when I think the thing is over and I don't get to my Spotify in time to turn it off. There's a whole so I went back and listened to some of the old ones to see if there was the old like stuff at the
That's
bottom.
that's
Always
Andy's
It's
bloopers.
thing.
fantastic.
The hidden
I
track,
lo- it's my favorite part.
That's
quit.
what Andy does. He's done it from the very beginning. He would just
He's
like,
sneaky.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, if there's something that's fun but it doesn't really belong.
I've gotten
Yeah.
so many people saying, "What does Happy Zombie Jesus Day mean?" And I was like, "Okay, jeez, that was very funny."
Oh, well.
Well,
Okay.
Do you guys want to take about a 2 or 3 minute break and get some air?
Yeah,
Sure.
probably.
Okay,
probably
let's
nice
do
for
that.
everybody. Okay.
Is there no air in here?
There is, but
It's,
it won't be when we
it's nicer
record.
air outdoors.
Oh, it's nicer air outdoors.
Yeah, let's just get a couple minutes of air.